One shot, let's begin. Yanahara no Mita Yume, the dream Yanahara saw by Imitation Crystal. Translated and upload by Penny Theater and Gray Area. Alright, we read and we react. We've read quite a few Imitation Crystal's one-shots. I've been largely confused by them, or at least, have more questions than answers. So we'll see if the dream Yanahara saw is gonna continue that trend. With all that being said, let's begin, everybody. Morning.
Martin, listen, you won't believe this. What's up? I had the craziest dream last night. Dreams? Great. Just put me to sleep. Hey, you say that, but weren't you the one who said that you aren't really friends with someone unless you can yap to each other about nonsense? Did I? The dream was awesome, I swear. There was this super creepy door, and we all went through it. That includes you, Mako-chan. Yeah? Okay, so this door was a forbidden door. Then we saw a night sky full of stars, but it didn't feel like a moment, you know? The ground was covered in this black water. It looked like you'd sink if you stepped on it. Super scary. And there were patches of these awful livid colors. Can we talk about something else? Come on! Hey, Yanahara, what's that? See, Mako-chan? I'm drawing my dream. Cool. Oh, man. I'm not doing so hot. I could see it in my mind, though. Oh, I know. It needs to be in color. I'll go borrow some paint from the art club. Ka-ching, ka-ching. Excuse me, but what are you doing? Taking pictures of you, Maestro. She's been obsessing over drawing this dream she had all day. Her brain's probably still asleep. Obviously. Hey, hmm. Artists have been attempt no. Artists have been attempting to depict their dream since the immemorial. There's nothing unusual about it. Really? Dreams cause a mysterious enchantment. Can't say I get it. You forget them when you wake up. Okay, this should be enough, I think. Thanks, Maestro. I'll show it to you when it's done. Drawing dreams, huh? Ta-ta-ta-ta. Well, is it done? Yup.
See, I just had to sit and process this for just a second. Let's see.
There we go. Would you look at that? My dream on paper. I see why people get so serious about this now. It's so fun to bring your dream into this world.
Wait, bring your dream.
Into the world like this. It's successfully invaded reality, I guess. Let's see.
The dream Yanahara saw. Ooh, cigarette butts or... Okay, let's see. There was a mysterious gate. I guess I'll let her narrate.
There was a mysterious gate. We all went through it. Beyond it was a night sky full of stars. We stood on an expanse of dark, murky water. I couldn't see through to the bottom, but it looked very deep. It felt like you sink if you lost your balance, even a little. It was terrifying, and we knew that we weren't supposed to go through the door. We had to see the master of this world and beg for mercy. It was a world of nightmares ruled by the King of Terror. We started walking towards the gelatinous castle where he lived. We made our way through the ocean, checkered like a giant chessboard. A sea of strawberry jam, a sea of yogurt, a sea of black ink. We had been walking for a long while when we came across an odd house. That house with a missing wall? consisted of a large Japanese-style room. It was wonderful. It had a fridge and a TV set. It even had a balcony. The view was on its own way beautiful. You could easily forget that this was a nightmare. My exhausted friends decided to take a short break. I continued on my journey alone. I entered a tunnel in livid pink. There I started to wonder, was this really a dream? If the Lord of this world controlled all that was, could he not then command the dream to be a dream no longer? What if I came across an omnipotent God and decided to make all this real? It was a scary thought. I didn't want to say goodbye to the real world. Well, I made my way through the tunnel and continued walking until I no longer knew how far. Approaching the gelatinous castle, I was scared to see the king. Then, a familiar building came into sight. It was mirrored, but certainly this was the house. Taking a look inside. Hey, you're back. Where did you go off to? Look, there's Coke in the fridge. The TV works too. Beds were made. I became even more alarmed. Were they really my friends? I thought I had been walking on a straight line, but did I get confused somewhere? Accidentally making my way back? Or, or, I was scared, but I had been walking for so long. It was too much to resist. Comfortable bed, good friends, a beautiful view. Sleep came quietly. In an odd house floating on a dark sea beneath the stars, I went to sleep with my replicated friends. That was the dream as I remembered it. Finn.
Oh, neat, neat. Um, okay. This one, while not completely clear the symbolism of the dream, it feels like this is a full narrative where I could be like, okay, I can appreciate this and not be as readily confused versus interpreting. Um, First, this person has a very distinct art style, so good for them. I appreciate that. Um, and just seeing the contrast of, excuse me, of, how should I put this? I don't want to say her characters are or their characters are necessarily simple, but if you compare the first half of this manga, you see like the characters are simple, the backgrounds are pretty minimalistic, and then just to go straight up to this, it's like, whoa, okay, now we're getting some more backgrounds, and then boom, we get this here. We get this thing that's a portal or maybe on fire. I thought these might have been cigarette butts, but they're probably just pillars. Lightning is happening. And then there's this sense of unease. And just to have the blackness of the panel be kind of juxtaposed with the relatively sparse backgrounds and the whiteness of the paper, it's a really cool visual. And then to just have them back in here and it's rather sparse, but there's still a couple of things. And it's like, okay, I could see why they might be a little unsettled, right? Where she's like, I'm just too tired though. I guess I'll take my chances. Maybe they are my friends, or maybe they're duplicates, or maybe this world is doing whatever, right? It's a really cool visual component. And then I wonder if this would look any different if this was pink, right? Just seeing the fleshy color of the walls, right? That could be a number of things. Maybe this is a living organism. Maybe it's a mouth. Who knows? And then just to see them go like whoosh, like that. Are they in a living being, in a living organism? And this is a gelatinous castle. So that means it's a castle made of whatever material that maybe the tunnel was made out of. And then you come back and then boom. And I find it interesting. I went to sleep with my replicated friends. Replicated friends. Because at this point, she just acknowledges that they're replicas because she couldn't, she didn't, she went in a straight line. And as a result, it's like, whoop, okay. Because one of two things is that if she really did go in a straight line, which, is very possible, it could just be a smaller world, right? Like, you have this vast nature, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily a big world, right? How much you see in the distance will be muffled by relative lack of the relative lack of things to look at, right? So if I look at my city and I can see the skyline from miles and miles and miles away, okay, that gives me some perspective for how far it was. But then if there's nothing there and there's no indicator, and worse, it's dark, it's pitch black, unless she's looking at the stars or something as an indicator. And I don't even know if the stars would help her indicate it. It the world might be deceptively smaller, and it would kind of almost make sense if she just went in a big circle around the world, like like that. She just goes straight, straight. Because eventually, if you go straight, you will end up through the same spot if it's a globe. Oh no, is she a flat earther? That's why she can't believe it. She's like, well, her friends are gonna be like, well, that makes sense. The Earth's right. You could go straight and then have the same spot, but that she would be like, but I would have fallen off the Earth. That maybe that's the real thing. Now let's try to interpret the symbolism of this here. So there's this okay, big lightning, this big portal, and this stars. We all went through it, and it looked very deep. You could go and fall through it and lose your balance. To see the master of the world and beg for mercy. It wasn't. Why did they have to see the world? I guess it isn't quite clear. They just kind of knew it was some sort of thing to go. Psh, psh, there you go, and that's why they were able to potentially get an audience with the king. I think that makes sense, right? Because otherwise, why would she know? Like, hey, she get an audience with the king. You can't go to a country and then be like, all right, I want to meet the head of state here. And they go, okay, cool. You usually have to go through a process, but whatever here. The giant checkerboard's the only indication, but I know there's some optical illusions you can make with the checkerboards here. A sea of strawberry jam, a sea of yogurt, and a sea of black ink. Yeah, this is a strange world. Maybe it's just a living organism that they're going across. They're eating on this. A sea of strawberry jam, a sea of yogurt, and a sea of black ink. I wonder if they have any greater significance, or if it's more like gross. Imagine walking through jam, imagine walking through yogurt, and then imagine walking through ink, which, gosh, it'll stain everything. It's probably a heftier material than yogurt and jam. I could imagine there being some sort of substance when it comes to jam and yogurt, but ink, why don't you just fall through? That house with a missing wall, great house, and they had a fridge and a TV set, and then the balcony. So there's a second floor, or the first floor has a balcony. I guess that might be the balcony. Oh, beautiful view. They left, and you wonder what happened to their friend. Maybe because they didn't go beg for mercy. Hmm. I don't know. Maybe the king replaced them, or maybe this is their way of saying, "Hey, you're gonna go and beg for mercy." But then again, why is there Coke in the fridge? I'm gonna assume it's Coca Cola, not like soda. Like, oh, there's Coca Cola in the fridge. Is this just a big advertisement? And I'm so curious, what does the TV have to advertise in this? Because that's so cool. That's interesting. And I could see I didn't think much of the fact that the three beds were made, but if we don't see in the beginning that there are beds, and I don't know, maybe it's purposely not detailed on purpose, probably. Um, did they make the beds, or did this come to them? Right? That's interesting. Hmm. I don't know, and that's okay. Would I go and sleep in a place with potentially replicated friends? I mean, I think depending on the survival circumstances too, maybe it's your own paranoia, but it could be the replicated. But you should generally trust your instincts, I would say, especially in a case like this. Because the fact it's mirrored, they make it walk the way back makes sense. It's mirrored because you look at it from a different perspective. Hmm. I could see this, but again, the little smoke around it makes it tempting. And her fatigue is like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. I guess if you really want to think about this in a hyperlogical sense, if they are your friends, especially if they're your replicated friends, they should still be your friends regardless, right? If they are replicated perfectly. And then I didn't even think about this extra part here. I read like an article that said dreams are like some of the worst topics to talk about because the other person can't really go back and forth, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with. I think there could be back and forth, but I understand what they mean. Like, well, what am I going to contribute to your dreams? Da 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 da. But this is also important, right? You could yap to each other about nonsense. Plus, this led to a little adventure. Drawing my dream. I wonder if I could draw my dreams. I have been remembering my dreams a little bit more lately than I have in the past. And maybe I should continue that. Make a dream journal. But I don't know. We'll see. I appreciate that the friend has just was supportive while the sleepy friend was like, I love it. Maestro. I almost read this as maestro, which is like teacher in Spanish. And I was like, okay, never mind. But cool, cool, cool. This is awesome and cool, and I got me thinking in it. We're thinking in a good way. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. I guess we'll see. Imitation Crystal has a couple more one shots that we can look through. Yes, they do. Oh, this is a collection, but we'll see. Anyways, have a good day. And with all that being said, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for being born, y'all. Peace out.